What is it?
The main thing I got from it was like this sense of feeling seen and validated.
Well, why does it have to be this way?
This book was placed in my hand for this moment.
Insightful, learned a lot, wrote some quotes that I'm ready to like paint on my wall.
I love this book!
That we just kind of pull out some of the big themes that we see and talk about a few different ones.
I apologize if most of my contribution has K-pop references.
Alternative book title, The Feminine Mystique Part 2. You were really just gay all along. Welcome to Book Club.
With Julia!
And Victoria.
We are two lifelong friends who read a book and talk about it each episode.
This is a podcast where we enjoy exploring new perspectives, and we use books for personal and community growth. And in this case, TV shows.
Hell yeah. This week, we are talking about the TV adaptation of the novel Pachinko by Min Jin Lee. The TV show is on Apple TV. We talked about the book in a previous episode with our friend Andy Park. You can go check that out. And I'll just tie in the shameless promo right now. We have a members only series where we like review the episodes of the TV show. It's just a recorded Zoom call, so you just get to see us talking with each other.
Sure, and I use a lot of hand gestures.
So many hand gestures!
And now we get to see them and share them with you all. It's great.
Yeah! And so, yeah, you're getting our, off-the-cuff reactions. If you'd like to become a member, you can go to buymeacoffee.com/bookclubwithjv. It is $3 a month. You can come hang out with us and share your thoughts about Pachinko. We had a really fun time reviewing this show, so we really want to do another one.
Yeah, I feel like I like this, it's this new film club, book to show adaptation. I feel like it's right in our wheelhouse.
Yes.
Because Julia watches a lot of TV and has a lot of thoughts. And then I'm like the dark horse coming in with like no prior knowledge of anything with film. And then I'm pretty proud. There were at least 2 points in our episode watching that I predicted things that came true.
Yeah.
They might have been, very obvious predictions, but I felt proud.
Yeah.
But yeah, you can head over and check that out. But today we'll be diving into like an overall conversation of the whole series, and we have a special guest with us. We're very, very excited.
Yeah.
Please welcome Victoria Edel.
Woo!
Yeah.
Thank you for having me.
Woo woo. Welcome back. Victoria is a writer from Brooklyn, New York, and she covers TV and movies for Pop Sugar, and she is one half of the Gold Plated Girls newsletter, which we had Victoria and her co-writer of the newsletter, Haley Schuneman, on last year, which was really fun. So we're excited to have you back. Victoria's writing has appeared in The New Yorker, McSweeney's Internet Tendency, and Reductress. Prolific. We love it.
I already have ideas for your guys' next book to series thing.
Yeah.
If you want, I feel like, did you guys read Station 11?
No, but that is a really good idea.
Read Station 11, which is amazing. I mean, the problem with Station 11 is that it's about a pandemic. So I understand if it's too much for people, but the book is great. And then the TV show, which is on HBO Max, is also really good. And I think that would be fun. And then Conversations with Friends is about to come out. The Sally Rooney show. That's next weekend. And then this summer, I Turned Pretty is about to come out on Amazon Prime. If you're feeling very YA, you could do that as well.
We can also do Heartstopper, but that's if we want a graphic novel.
Yeah, that's true. I loved it. I watched it all in one day. But I gotta say, I hate when people are like, oh my god, I watched all of Bridgerton in one day. In my defense, it was raining. In my defense, or something like that. And it's everybody does that now. It's actually very normal now.
You don't need a defense. It could be a very sunny day and you watch all of it.
It's not like you watched all of How I Met Your Mother in one day. TV seasons are very short.
Yeah. I don't know if it's physically possible to watch that much TV in one day unless you're watching 2 times and you've got 3 screens going.
Right. If you watched a whole season of How Much Your Mother in one day, we have problems. But normal TV shows now are 8 episodes. Of course you could watch that all in one day. That's not weird anymore.
8 to 10 episodes of a 30 to 40 minute show easily can be done in a day.
Exactly. So that's my new pet peeve lately. I hate when people say that.
That's how we consume television. That's how it goes.
Right, and my job is watching TV now. So it's
yeah.
Okay, whatever.
I know, it's been one of the fun things about doing the Pachinko reaction videos together because one, it's super fun for Julia and I just to sit on mic and not have to worry about editing it because we took that barrier away from ourselves. And also now I can like write it off as like, well, this is like productive work time in my life because like this podcast is a labor of love and it counts as work.
Yeah.
And so it was like Friday morning and I didn't open my email at all. I'm like, I need to watch Pachinko because Julia is counting on me and our members viewing it online. So yes, speaking of Pachinko.
Yeah. Should we talk about it? Real quick. We didn't do a spoiler warning.
Thank you.
Major spoilers.
Well, we didn't give any spoilers before, so we're good.
Starting now, we might spoil the entire book and the entire TV show.
Yeah, which are slightly different. So yeah.
Okay, so I read the book around when it came out. I don't even remember what year that was, but I remember it being like a big sensation, and I read it then, and I loved it. And then I watched the TV show I think mostly in like late February and March because I had screeners for work, which is great. Yeah, it was very fancy, and I really loved it so much. I think it was confusing because I was like, wait, like, is this not a mini series? Like,
right,
they're gonna do like multiple seasons of this?
We had the same conversation.
Right, and I had to like dig to find out like where the showrunner had said, yeah, they're gonna do multiple seasons, because I was like, wait, like what's going on? Like we cut out like a major character, even if nothing else. Yeah, I really loved the way that they did it. I think the whole cast is amazing. I love the way that they jump through time. I think that is really hard to pull off in a way that feels, you know, not forced. And I think they pull it off really well. I love the opening credits. They're so fun.
I know. I like watched it every episode. It was like, do you want to skip? I'm like, no. And then episode 8, there's new music. It's like a remix version of the theme.
It's so good.
I liked that.
The opening credits remind me of, and maybe this is unhinged, but have you guys seen Mamma Mia 2?
Yeah.
Here we go again. So, you know, at the end of the movie when like everyone's dancing together and it's like space-time doesn't exist and they like all exist in the same place? The Pachinko opening credits have the exact same vibe of like space-time is not real. We have like every version of these characters in one place, and like that's fine.
I love it. Okay, so I'm curious, you made a comment about when there's timeline jumping, doesn't always work. And
yes.
Julie and I both, I think from what I remember you saying, Julia, enjoyed like the new approach because it kind of speeds things up and it keeps you like really engaged in the parallels they're trying to draw between the different characters. It's like very forward versus like the book being a chronology. You don't like, you know, you'd have to consume the entire book and like think a little deeper about it to find those parallels between the characters. So what's kind of your criteria for a time jump TV show to work?
Yeah, I'm trying to think of other shows or like movies that have tried that. Wow, I'm going to talk about Mamma Mia again. And for that, I'm sorry. So like when Mamma Mia 2 came out, the director of Mamma Mia was like, we were trying to figure out what to make the sequel, and my daughter was like, you should do it like The Godfather Part 2. Where you go back in time to the dad, but you also see him in the future. And they were like, wow, you're exactly right. So I always tell people like Mamma Mia 2 is The Godfather Part 2 of Mamma Mia movies, because it literally is.
Yeah.
And then I finally watched The Godfather Part 2, and I realized it's actually a bad analogy because you don't actually see Robert De Niro that much. He's in very little of the movie. You see way more of Lily James in Mamma Mia 2 than you do Robert De Niro in The Godfather Part 2. So that actually annoyed me because I'd set up my expectations poorly for how much Robert De Niro was going to be in the movie. What is like another example that does it? I don't know. I just think it could have come off as like cheesy. It could have come off as like too obvious. I think that the show does a good job of drawing parallels without like condemning anybody or saying like this person is wrong or like this person messed up or, oh, Solomon should do this because his grandma XYZ. Like I think it just keeps it more like open-ended and interesting.
Yeah.
Though I also think it's interesting because they've really cut out, like, at least from this season, like, Solomon's, like, teen years. And I feel like, and, like, the stuff with his dad, and, like, they only really hint at his dad and, like, the pachinko parlor and the sort of, like, organized crime stuff. They don't really, like, go into it that much. So it's interesting to me how that kind of makes Solomon's story at the bank more about his grandma than it does about his dad, when I think in the book you're like, well, it's about both these things.
Yeah, it felt like, I'm very curious to see what they do with season 2, because it felt like they were trying to, like, maybe each season they'll pick 2 characters or something,
Yeah,
or they'll,
I could see
like,
that.
maybe Solomon won't feature as heavily in season 2, or maybe he will. But something that we talked about was, like, the choice to make Solomon the main character and not, I think, what we all would have assumed, Noah, who doesn't appear until episode 6 as a baby.
Right. And I assume that if you hadn't read the book, that you would assume that the baby she is pregnant with is Mazasu.
Yes.
That's what you would assume. And I thought that was very cool that sort of like Noah kind of turned into this reveal of like, oh, there's another brother. And like, you guys don't know anything about him.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I assume season 2 is going to focus on him a lot more.
Mm-hmm.
It was such an interesting viewing experience. And I'm sure the directors had to think about this. Like, a bunch of people watching have seen or have read the book. And so they're like, it was like all of us sitting around waiting for Noah for like 6 episodes, being like, what are they going to do with this character? Is he included? Is he not? And I think back to your point about like not knowing if it was a TV miniseries or multiple season show, I'm like, they must have just cut him out for time. That's what I was like convinced of for like the first like 3 episodes. It was like, oh, they just had to focus on the story. But when it became clear that they weren't going to be wrapping this up by episode 8, I was like, okay. But I thought it was still a really great dramatic reveal. And I would love to talk with someone who hadn't read the book first to know how that felt, or if it felt like, wait, what do you mean? Like, child out of left field, brother we don't know about.
Because I do wonder, because if you assume, and even as readers of the book, we were like, oh, maybe they changed it, that Mazasu is the child that she's pregnant with from Kohansu, that lineage, that makes Kohansu Solomon's grandfather, which is not true. But we're sort of drawing that connection. I'm like, that would totally change Solomon's story if Kohansu was his grandfather.
Yeah.
Like, does he know? It just kind of changes. It changes how he feels about the Pachinko business. It changes that phone call that his father gets in the flashback when he's a teenager and he gets caught shoplifting. And I feel like, I don't know. I'm not 100% satisfied with it. Like, I think it was smart with what they were trying to do, but I don't know. It changed things for me in a way I wasn't totally satisfied with.
I think it works for me, and I think that, like, we know that Solomon's dad is, like, associated with this, like, organized crime element, and I think... You know, I think there's something to be said of sort of like when you're part of like an immigrant population that's being like ignored at best and like at worst, like actively oppressed like by the state, the way that like so-called organized crime is like the only way that like any of you can like survive, you know? And who is anyone to say that that's, like, immoral for them to, like, do that, you know? Yeah. Like, I really appreciated... Episode 7 is the earthquake, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I loved that episode. Obviously, none of that is in the book. I didn't know about any of that. I thought it was really interesting. I thought it was a really cool way to expand the scope and also, like, give perspective for the, like, Korean experience in Japan that I just didn't know anything about any of that. I knew nothing. Same. I thought that was really cool. I thought it was such a good showcase for that actor who is like an extremely famous Korean actor. And I was kind of like, it's crazy they got him to do this part that's like not even really like the lead or even like the second lead. And then that episode came and I was like, oh, okay, like, this is how they got him to do this TV show.
Yeah.
Is they were like, well, there's going to be this one episode.
Yeah, it's going to be all you. Okay, so I'm very curious. Julia, you've shared for members, but please share it here on the main feed.
Yeah, Julia.
Your thoughts.
Julia started laughing, so I was like, oh, Julia doesn't like episode 7. She doesn't like it.
I really didn't like it.
Wow.
That's just so funny to me. Like, that, like, you volunteered that take of how much you loved it, and I was like, ah, shit.
It was good.
Ah, shit, I didn't like it. Like, on a technical level, I thought it was very well done, and it was educational. Like, I learned something. It provided perspective. Like, it kind of did all the things that it was supposed to do on paper. I just didn't connect to it at all.
That's legit.
Yeah. And it felt like it was placed in a weird spot, and I don't know. It kind of came out of left field for me, and I really don't like Kohansu from the book. And so I've had a really hard time with the show because they got this super famous, very talented actor. I feel like they're trying to have it both ways of making him like a morally gray kind of looming presence, but also making him kind of a romantic lead at the same time. It feels like they're trying to do both, and it's not really working for me. Yeah, I don't know. I have a lot of mixed feelings about it because it feels like the show wants me to like him, and I can't. That's where I'm.
To me, it's stuck. Not that they want. I didn't feel like they want me to like him. I feel like they just want me to like understand him and also understand her attraction to him and like understand basically how they all ended up in this like very fucked up situation. Right. You know, like just to be like sympathetic toward everybody, not necessarily like, oh, you're a good person, I support you, you know, like the conversation with his wife, like when we see his wife, that's just like fucking brutal. He sucks like a lot of the time, you know, like he does a lot of like bad things. He's like such a dick to her. I mean, when she's like, I'm pregnant, and he's like, okay, well, I'll put you in like a nice house and like that, you know, like I'm like, man, fuck you. But like, who among us has not still desired somebody who has been mean to us? And, you know, and at the same time, he is like very generous toward her. But then like at the same time, you know, it's in order to control her. And because of this like misogynistic affection for a son that he doesn't even know. So I just think it's like complicated. Yeah. And I enjoy those complications more than like, well, he's evil and he should always be evil.
Yeah. My main critique of episode 7 was I felt like I didn't know where it was supposed to be. Like, I understand they put it as episode 7 because they did. And I can see that they were kind of like boxed into a corner because like I felt like the narrative arc that was happening early in the season, you didn't want to break that up with like a whole Kohansu backstory. It might have been too many storylines to like make Kohansu's earthquake story go through a couple episodes with Sunja and with Solomon. So I feel like it was difficult. I feel personally it was like a weird detour when I was like emotionally ready for the end of the season. I was like, we have 2 more episodes. Like, I'm excited to see where this goes. We just met Noah, and then all of a sudden it's like, boop, 1923, Yokohama, and we're going to stay here all episode. I think I also might have felt a little more like, oh, this fits the show if they had given another character an entire episode as well to like make it less of a, and here's Lee Min-ho having his acting moment. Yeah. Which I like because I think he's great. But it also kind of felt a little like, I don't know what the word for it is. Like, it was a little too much to like, we're going to stop and give one episode here, but I don't know. I keep talking around myself because I'm like, but also how do you break up that story? Because it's like basically almost the entire episode is one day. And so like, it would be really jarring to like jump back into that. I don't know.
I think to me, I viewed it not just as an origin story for him, but like an origin story for like Koreans in Japan in general, because like after the episode aired, like I was like doing like light Googling about it, but apparently that like really fermented this like anti-Korean sentiment in Japan and like for decades to like come, you know? So to me it felt like this isn't just like what he came out of, but also like this is the sort of like racist soup that they're all swimming in for their entire lives in Japan.
I agree. I do think it was like really good context to the racism in Japan because we do get that in the book, and because the book is longer and can really set us in the scene for a lot longer, we kind of get the building of it over time, you know, like how it
Yeah.
intensifies for the characters in the 30s, 40s timeline. But it was really cool to get a little bit more backstory of like why when they arrived in Japan it was already that racial tension.
Yeah, I agree. I think too sometimes, you know, like I love books, and a lot of the time I will try to read a book before I watch something. Like I have like a poster for like Brooklyn on my wall, like the Saoirse Ronan movie.
Yes.
And I like specifically like read that book before, and then I liked the movie better. You know, but I think that there's like in book circles sometimes it's like faux pas to say like, oh, actually the adaptation was better than the book. I think it's important to sort of consider them as separate things. They're separate works of art. They obviously one is based on the other, but they're like doing different things. They have different tools. Like The Godfather was a book. It was a best-selling book. Most people will never read the Godfather book, and they will only ever see the movie. And the book was like pulp fiction, and the movies are like a high work of art, you know? I also feel that way about the Hunger Games, like very strongly, that like the Hunger Games books are like pretty good, and the Hunger Games movies are like great and really expanded the world of the Hunger Games and took what was like a sort of like difficult story for one girl and made it like a big political allegory that I think was really good. Not perfect, but I think ultimately very successful.
Yeah, I feel very similarly, and Julie and I have talked about this before. So for me, I feel similarly. Like I want the TV show to be a good TV show. I don't want it to be a good filming of actors sitting in a room reciting a book to each other. Like I want it to be a show. I think I maybe am even more interested in book to TV adaptations because I don't watch a lot of TV. And so I come in with like a little bit more knowledge. And so I'm like looking for things and I like the comparisons. But like overall, I'm like, yeah, the TV show works way better with multiple timelines at the same time because I loved that it was like a strict chronology, but I also know it made it a difficult read because people like Julia told me it was a difficult read.
Yeah.
Julia, what's your take on book to TV?
Took the words right out of my mouth. I'm exactly the same way. I'm like, it's a different medium. You have different tools for storytelling. Make a good film, make a good TV show. That, like, I think, you know, you need to have a lot of respect for the original source material. You can't just be... The thing that bothers me is when, you know, in the film industry, they're really, especially right now, they're really desperate for sort of pre-existing intellectual property because they know that it'll make them more money. And so sometimes things get bought up.
They hope.
They hope, right? Because it comes with a pre-existing audience. That's the idea. And so that's why you're getting all these remakes. That's why, or reboots, or live action versions, all that kind of stuff. And sometimes they put it in the hands of someone who has a lot of respect for the original source material and really wants to do a good job. And sometimes they just don't care. They're just like, we'll just make whatever. And then you get a lot of pissed off fans.
Because then you feel like duped because you're like, we were told we were going to get a TV show or a movie based off this thing we love. And then it's like, oh no, you just baited us to come watch it.
What's an example? What are we talking? I feel like, what's the thing that we really hate?
I remember taking issue with some of the Chronicles of Narnia.
Oh yeah, those were
when I was younger because
really
it
bad.
was like we were excited and then it didn't feel like it was either a good movie or a true adaptation.
Yeah.
Another one Julia's brought up before is Percy Jackson.
They're doing it again. They're doing it again.
I know.
Get ready.
I saw Rick Riordan on social media excited about the new Percy that they cast, and he was like on the call when they like told the actor that he got
That's
the job,
cute.
and he was like the kid was like already wearing a Camp Half-Blood t-shirt.
Oh my
and
God.
just like really into the book. So I'm like a little more helpful.
This brings me in general to one of my favorite topics, which is the Reese Witherspoon Book Club. Okay?
Oh,
Reese,
yes.
Okay.
what a machine that they have done,
Yeah.
right? Because Reese picks a book, makes it a Reese Books Club's pick, so more people read it because it's a Reese pick, and then she's like, well, obviously now we'll make it a movie or TV show. And, you know, the success of this is really all over the place. I really, really, really did not like Little Fires Everywhere.
Yeah, that's what I
did
heard.
not like that show at all. I felt like they really handicapped it by casting Reese and Kerry Washington because the kids are the best part of the book but we didn't see the kids enough because we were spending so much time with the two of them. And it was like, I don't care about this. That's part one. Part two, yeah, she keeps adapting shit. The Crawdads movie is coming against all of our will.
I hope that's what it's called. I know it's not, but it's like the Crawdads movie. It sounds like the Emoji Movie or whatever those like kind of ridiculous kid shows are.
Oh my God.
The Daisy Jones and the Six TV show, too.
I'm actually really
They filmed that a while ago, and I feel like there's been no updates.
Yeah.
And I want updates. What's going on? Like, did they write good songs? Like, what's happening? I need to know.
That one
there's
I'm
a lot of pieces
super
there.
intrigued because the book is so much about how amazing the music is and how groundbreaking it is, but like Taylor Jenkins Reid can write that because she doesn't have to write the music. And I was really excited when I heard they were turning into a film, but then I also got or a TV show, but I got really scared too because I'm like, if the music sucks, it's not like that has to carry the show. So I wonder if there's delays like making sure they have the right. There's incredible musicians in this world that I'm sure could write beautiful music. They just need to like hire the right people, bring them in. Going back, I remembered another one that I take issue with, and less about the adaptation, but the choice in medium. So Sharp Objects was Gillian Flynn's novel, was adapted into a TV show, and I really don't think there was enough content to make it a show. It really, I think, would work so much better as a movie, especially because Gone Girl worked so well as a film, mainly because it tightened up everything that Gillian Flynn kind of like let linger for maybe a little longer in the book that is interesting for TV. But with Sharp Objects, they literally had to drag things out longer than they took in the book because they had to fill 10 episodes or whatever it was. And I'm like, give them less episodes or say, no, Amy Adams, make this a movie. Actually, I don't know if Amy Adams was the maker. I know she was the lead.
Amy Adams is in charge of it.
No, Amy Adams.
Well, Gone Girl is one of the first movies that Reese Witherspoon produced. That's like how the beginning, Reese produced that year Wild, which she starred in, and I actually love Wild, controversial, and Gone Girl, and she wanted to be Amy, and they were like, no, Reese, you can't be Amy. And she was like, but I wanna, and they were like, no, it will be bad. You can't do that. Like, I'm really sorry, but it's not gonna be you.
Oh, thank God they said no.
Conversations with Friends, which comes out May 15th. I loved the book. I liked Normal People. I liked the Normal People series, which Sally Rooney worked on. Sally Rooney did not work on Conversations with Friends. I hate the show. The show is so bad. It is 12 episodes long.
Unnecessary.
Isn't it like a 300-page novel? Like,
it is 12 half-hour episodes. It's like every scene in the book got its own episode. It's insane. It is so bad. I was pissed the entire time I watched it. It was really bad. I don't even think it's the actor's fault. I'm just like, I don't know that the people who made this understand what the book is about. Like, it is just a baffling experience to watch that show. I was literally mad.
Yeah. Oh.
Yeah, I was just like a major disappointment, and it's like, I think this could have worked a lot better as a movie, but I think that streaming services want series more than they want movies. So if they can like push something, and I think that's really true even in like the documentary space.
Yes.
That like Netflix wants a 6-episode docuseries more than they want a movie. And it's like, okay, but maybe this is just like enough story for a movie. Like the Tinder Swindler, if that had been a docuseries, it would have been in rough shape. Like there just wasn't enough stuff there. So yeah, I wish Conversations with Friends had been a movie, or even just like 6 episodes. They did 12 insanely. I didn't like it at all.
Good to know.
Yeah.
Saved me 6 hours of my life.
So your experience, you watched Pachinko before it comes out, so you don't even have the commentary of everyone else around you. You become the commentary that we all look up,
Yes,
which is pretty cool.
Weird, honestly. It is weird sometimes to be like, what do other people think about this? Like, I want to talk about this with somebody, but there's like nobody to talk to about it.
And then you got a chance to interview the cast. So after talking with them, did it kind of recolor any of your opinions on what you'd seen?
No, because I already liked it so much. So it didn't like make me change my mind. Yeah, it was really cool. They were all really great. You know what I thought of before that I didn't say, but I will say now, is that I think the book is very much like, here's the story of a family, you know? And I love that. Like, I love generational novels that sort of like go from like, here's the grandma story and the dad story, you know, type stuff. But I think the with like episode 7, the show is not just trying to tell the story of this one specific family, but sort of this like whole group of people of these like Korean immigrants and like what happened to them and like what they endured. And I think that's cool. And I think talking to everybody, like that was really important to them to sort of be like, these are stories that like people don't know about that we really want to bring into the light. And I really like the way episode 8 ends with the grandmas. Yeah, like the grandmas are adorable and you just love them and you just want to like cry. And, you know, sort of, it's crazy to think about like what people have lived through. And, you know, so much of what we are currently living through is like so horrible. And I think sometimes it's easy to feel like nobody else has ever lived through something as terrible before. And it's like, no, that's not true. Like, a lot of people have. And not in like, oh, like, buck up and shut up way. But sort of like, no, like, if there's one thing that's true of like humanity is that we are stronger than we think we are. And can make it through more than we think we can handle.
Watching the show and reading the book as a white American who knew very little of Korean and Japanese history, I came in knowing like, oh right, Korea and Japan have like a beef or something, right? Like I'm just like, they just don't get along. There's something there. And to be able to like read the family story and to watch it on the screen and to get even more context through the TV show of the history of Korean immigrants in Japan, like I'm just super helpful and insightful, and like I don't know, just gives me so much more than just like the broad strokes World War II stories we get in history class where it's like, oh yeah, and then the Japan theater, you know, this is what happened, and then we don't talk about anything. And I think also, I mean, it's tied into with like the atrocities of the Korean War and America's involvement with that, and we just don't want to talk about it because we're like, it was not good. And it does a disservice to everyone, the survivors, the veterans who've come back, and our whole country. So that we just sit around being like, all right, yeah, Korea and Japan, they have a beef, right? Instead of like actually knowing the historical context that not only influences today, but is like literally part of lives of people who lived through that and are still alive today.
Yeah, I think the way that we learn history is from this like white supremacist, imperialist American perspective. So like we only talk about Asian history when it's like quote unquote relevant. So it's sort of like, oh, World War II, we hated Japan and we liked China. And then like, oh, but then after World War II, communism, and we liked Japan and we hated China. And it's like Vietnam and Korea and Cambodia, if you even talk about Cambodia in school, are all just sort of considered like pawns in, you know, this like great American thing. It's like experiment, you know. And it's true, too, that, like, most people learn about history from movies and TV shows. And I think that a lot of times people who make movies and TV shows don't want to consider that responsibility and are sort of like, well, I want to make, like, a good movie. And it's like, yeah, but, like, people are stupid. And they're going to think what you're putting here is true. I mean, in my 10th grade history class, we watched Gandhi.
Whoa. The Ben Kingsley one?
Yeah, it took us like a week because it's so fucking long. Whoa. But we watched it in history class. Like, that's how most people learn about history is most people are not reading history books. Once you graduate from high school, most people are like, I'm never going to think about this shit again. And when you think about how so much American media that is about Korea is just about like the Korean War and is from the perspective of American soldiers.
Is there Korean War media? I don't think there's a lot of Vietnam War media.
Is it MASH?
I was gonna say, is it MASH?
Set during the Korean War?
Oh, I always thought that was Vietnam.
Yeah, I think that's like a common. But I'm pretty sure MASH was actually set during the Korean War.
That must be it then.
Yeah, you're right. Most is Vietnam.
I feel like the entire representation of Korea in the U.S., aside from MASH, apparently, has occurred in the last like 10 years.
Yeah, I think you're right.
Like Korea spontaneously arose from nowhere and didn't exist prior to like BTS or something.
Yeah, basically.
For a lot of people.
Yeah, shit's crazy, man. Really, what a world we live in.
Yeah. And I think one thing that Pachinko, just to highlight again, because it's such a great TV show, like as an art form, it's so great. I think really helps like spoon feed us, but also like history in a way that it's not like, oh, there's a new like historical documentary. And if you're not into historical documentaries, you're not going to watch it. It's like, there's a really, really good drama TV show out there. And I feel like I've just been talking about it with everyone, mainly because it's the only TV show I've been watching currently. But yeah, and then it's like, oh my gosh, it's like really good. It's about like family and there's like some history stuff. And like, I learned so much, but also like the music's awesome. The filming's amazing. The actors are incredible. So like, it's just like the whole package. It's what you want out of, what I would want out of like a historical drama is like, you're giving me some facts and some context, but also some like narrative and plot and characters like any good TV show would have, to like connect me to it, even though I'm personally very far removed from the Korean and Korean American experience.
And I think it's important too, like when I was in grad school, I took a class that was on like history on film. And I remember I got mad at my professor on the first day because he gave us the syllabus and he was like, yeah, I know that like most of the movies on here are like about men, but it's really hard to find movies about women doing, I think his word was historically significant things. And I remember I ended up beating him up about this like a million times. I like wrote my final paper about it and he's a very nice person. So like, I'm not dragging him. And I wrote about Brooklyn in my paper about how like, you know, for women, like social history is like just as big as like, you know, a movie about Abraham Lincoln. Like that's life, you know? And so like the story in Pachinko might seem like small of like she, you know, sold kimchi in the market, you know? And it's like, but that's like her whole life. And that's the story of like, you know, millions of women around the world is sort of like, how did they survive in these historical circumstances? You know, like I think a lot about like Dirty Dancing and that like Dirty Dancing, one of my favorite movies. Most people are like, oh, you know, dancing, nobody puts baby in the corner. And it's like the main plot of Dirty Dancing involves an illegal abortion. Like that's like the major twist in the movie, that like catalyst of the romance is like baby stepping up to help this other girl get an abortion, and the way it like falls across like class lines and her own dad, and you know, and it's like, yeah, that's like not a movie about a war, but like that was the reality, it, you know, could be the reality again for millions of people.
Yeah.
I liked what you pointed out about how they're making the show about more than the family, sort of the broader community that this family is part of. And I feel like the moment we see that the most is in episode 4, which is my favorite episode. And maybe part of my bitterness in the rest of the show is that it never lived up to episode 4 for me. It was just so good. That episode destroyed me.
Wait, could you remind me
in
what
the
happens
best way?
episode
So
4?
that's the one where it's her leaving Korea
on the boat.
And then it's also when Solomon is, it's the dramatic scene when he tells the woman not to sell.
Yes, that's what I thought. Yeah, I agree. That's the best episode. It's absolutely incredible. I love the changes they made to Solomon's plot to make him sort of like actively be like, no, don't sell.
Yeah.
Like, fuck it. I love that. Him dancing in the rain. I loved everything about that episode.
On the boat, when you have the lower class people underneath and then you have the singer up above, and then you also cut. So the whole thing where they're intercutting between Sunja is like very pregnant, seasick in the belly of this giant boat, and then there's this Korean singer performing for a bunch of Japanese men, and then you cut to the future where there's this woman who has this one little tiny bit of property that the Japanese people are trying to get to take from her. And it was so well done and so moving and felt so like made these very tiny choices, these little individual things. So, you know, it's a woman deciding whether or not to sell her property. It's a woman deciding to sing a Korean song instead of what she's paid to sing. And like a woman like drinking water in the belly of a ship. Like these tiny little snapshots are like this huge sort of interconnecting web of these people's lives. And like I'm getting chills thinking about it right now. It was so good. I'm like, that to me is like the magic of what a show like this can do. and like really, really elevates the text and kind of expands on it and broadens it to this sort of broader community of people. So yeah, I that's the best part of the show for me right there. And I hope they keep doing that in the next season.
Yeah.
Sort of tying all those elements together.
Yeah, speaking of the next season, what are your guys' predictions or hopes?
Oh boy. I don't, I mean, obviously we're gonna like meet Noah, baby Noah is so cute.
His little cheekies.
So immediately heartbreaking from like the first moment you see him. It's just like a perfect little baby that they found. I'm interested in what they'll do with Solomon because they basically covered his entire plot, and it's like, okay, what's he gonna do from here? And I feel like for plot, probably he's gonna like make a lot of bad decisions. Solomon, no, like I just want you to be like happy. Like,
yeah.
I mean, like, okay, buddy, let's figure this one out. Yeah. And I'm interested too in seeing like the younger version of his dad.
Mm-hmm.
And one of my friends who I've been talking to about this, like she was saying that in the book, he's like a little more like tougher and like a little more like vicious, which I'd only sort of like vaguely remembered. I had felt like the show was kind of, having read the book, was sort of like, well, now he's older and he's like a little softer, but it'll be interesting to see what they do with like younger versions of him.
I'm really looking forward to just diving into Masasu as a character. That was one of my, like, the whole season, I was like, there has to be another season. They have this character, and his storyline with his wife, who's Solomon's mother, in the book is one of my favorites. And maybe because I like to get my heart ripped out, but I think it was, I don't know. I'm interested to see how they do that on screen. I think it'll give us a lot of insight into Masasu as a character. And I'm also very curious how much Solomon knows about Noah. And if that will become a plot point later, or if it's just kind of like he knows his uncle used to be around and isn't anymore. It doesn't seem like he was around in the book during Solomon's lifetime. But it would be kind of odd to me that Solomon doesn't know at all that his dad has a brother.
I'm curious if they'll keep Sunja and Solomon as the two main characters, or if they'll switch to Noah and Masasu and have their older and younger versions, like they did with Sunja.
I feel like there is still a lot of Sunja's story, though, of her, like, raising them, and but you're right, I wonder.
But it could be from their perspective rather than hers, potentially.
Yeah, we'll see.
Yeah, I don't know.
Do we talk about this? We didn't talk about this, but I love when she, like, finds out that, like, her husband has been, like, meeting with all these radicals, and then she, like, goes to meet them, and she, like, takes Noah with her, and, like, Noah has to, like, translate for her because she doesn't. That was so good and, like, heartbreaking, and it really fucked me up. I thought that was amazing.
And I think we're getting, like, so much insight already. I mean, it's hard because I know what happens in the book, but because in the show, we don't know about Noah, we just know he's not there, but we see all of these traumas that he's experiencing as a kid, and we're like, oh, this is messing you up somehow. And when Kohansu, like, appears at the end and is, like, walking him to school, I was like, what?
It's like Godzilla or something, you're like, no.
It's like, how do you know where I go to school? And it's like, how do you know where you go to school?
I know, and it's like, because, like, Sunya doesn't really understand. It's like she knows what he's like when they're together, but only like kind of, and she doesn't really understand like the city and like a mobster and sort of like this whole big machine that he's plugged into. So by like she's kind of like, okay, I'll never see him again, like I'm moving on with my life, and it just like doesn't really understand the way the sort of like tentacles of his life can kind of like get into everything, and it's very scary.
I do think the scene at the end where Grandma Sunja gives Solomon the watch is a key to me that we're going to get more of Solomon, because it's such like an ominous thing. Like, I thought this was a curse and it ended up being a blessing, and I hope it is for you. Like, I feel like that's like, okay, it was setting up something. I don't know.
It seems like the tail end of this show also was as much setting us up for season 2 as it was concluding the storyline of season 1.
Yeah.
And I don't like love that either. Like when you can tell that shows are sort of planning for next season rather than just like being kind of entities on their own.
To me, that didn't bother me because it felt like there's so many loose ends. Like, there's just, like, so much that we don't know. So to me, it didn't feel like, oh... Like, I felt like we got closure on, like, a lot of big storylines. And especially with, like, her at the end, like, selling kimchi and sort of, like, the way she comes from, like... You know, the market was, like, so important to her as a young girl in her village, even as, like, a little girl, like, going with her dad and, like, being with the market people. And then the way she, like, starts to find that again at the end. And even, like, other people in the market, like, showing kindness to her to, like, help her set up. Like, I felt like that was, like, a good, like, button on sort of where we're leaving her for now.
I also think because the book and the show are so much like these are just people's lives, it also felt mostly satisfying to me because we know that people's lives don't end when we stop seeing them on screen.
Yeah.
I felt like it felt very human because they were telling a very human, realistic fiction story. That it doesn't need to have a true button on it because, like, literally nothing in life does until we look back and we're like, yeah, we could, like, put an ending on that. That seemed like the end of that thing. Okay, so is there any other final thoughts?
Yeah, I think this is, like, an exciting time for book to... I think the cynical side of you is like, oh, like, they just want, like, IP to, make into something new. But I think that there have been a lot of, like, exciting and cool ones. I think this is a great example. I think Station 11 is a great example. I think Bridgerton, while not perfect, is a cool example. Bridgerton Season 2 changed a lot about the book, I thought, for the better. And yeah, I think it's, like, an exciting time for this. I do constantly wonder why Netflix hasn't, like, optioned, like, 1 million, like, romance novels at this point and just, like, churning out little, like, romance novel movies or series or something.
Honestly, the Hallmark Channel should get on that. I know they do a lot of, like, original romances. And I'm like, just go buddy up with, like, Talia Hibbert and...
Yeah, I mean, Talia is definitely too sexy for the Hallmark Channel, but...
They need, like, a Hallmark X channel. That's what I want.
That's what we all want. Right, but, like, Netflix, it feels obvious to me that Netflix should do that, and I don't really know why they're not.
They're making a lot of really dumb choices at the moment.
But they have the Evelyn Hugo movie now.
Oh, they do.
And I'm very excited about that. Okay. So we'll see what happens there. Yeah, those are my thoughts.
Okay, so you listed a few, but if there's more, what are any recommendations you have for people, whether it's book adaptations, good history dramas, literally anything related?
Okay, this is not related, but I'm going to recommend it anyway. On HBO, if you like horror, or if, like me, you're, like, horror curious, but you're not necessarily, like, a fan, and, like, maybe some things are, like, a little too gruesome, I really recommend The Baby, which is an HBO series about a woman who ends up saddled with a baby, and every time she tries to get rid of it, somebody dies. It's British. It's very funny. Oh, I guess this is coming out in the future. So by the time you're hearing this, all the episodes will be on HBO, and you can watch the whole thing in a nice little binge. And it's really good.
So obviously it's been stated, I don't watch a ton of TV, but I have watched parts of My Brilliant Friend, usually when Julie and I are prepping to record episodes about the books. So My Brilliant Friend is on HBO, and it's based on the Elena Ferrante novels, and very much, like, just people living their lives, and it's drama, and it's history, and it's politics. Each season follows one of the 4 books, so there's a 4th book, so we expect a 4th season, and then I expect they will be done, unless they do more. But they're pretty, like, true adaptations. They just tighten up some of the timelines because the books are hella long.
And amazing.
Yeah, and really good.
And very good. Okay, so I will recommend a film and a K-drama. So the film I would recommend. I think I recommended both of these things I'm about to recommend when we talked about the book. So I'm really original.
Do it again.
Do it again. So the film is called Mirani, directed by Lee Isaac Chung and starring Stephen Yeun. And it's the woman who plays older Sunja plays the grandmother in this film. So there's a little tie-in, and it is about Korean immigrants in America.
And she won the Oscar.
Yes. And she won the Oscar for that role. Yeah, she's incredible. Just go watch anything she's ever done, ever. I think that's a great place to start. If you've never watched any Korean film, start with her at work. And then also, if you want a K-drama that's set in a similar time to Pachinko, Mr. Sunshine, I would recommend.
So our last segment of the show, one of our faves, things we're currently obsessed with, things that are bringing us joy. Victoria, do you want to go first?
Yes, things I'm currently obsessed with. When I had COVID in late December, I had previously purchased a crochet kit, and when I had COVID I had nothing to do. I was like, I guess I'll do this. So I've been crocheting since then. I would say con is I bought so much yarn. I have so much yarn now. But pro is it's really fun. It's really nice to do while you're like listening to an audiobook or a podcast. Yeah, what have I made? I made 2 blankets.
Whoa.
I made myself a beanie the other day. I made some beanies for like friends. I just finished my first cardigan. It's not the one I'm wearing. It's a different one. This is from Target. But I made a cardigan. Right now I'm like making a tank top. It's really fun. There are lots of like crochet Instagram accounts of like a lot of like 23-year-old girls who just like make patterns for stuff and then share them for free. And like there's a lot of like YouTube videos. It's very fun. I'm very happy that I started doing this. My grandma used to crochet, and she like kind of taught me when I was like in middle school, but I immediately was like, I don't care about this. Like I'm 11. So yeah, it makes me really happy to do it. And yeah, I really recommend it. It's a nice little hobby.
I am currently obsessed with a few things. Recipe Club is a podcast I love, hosted by Dave Chang and Christine, and they just started a new season. It's been like a month, but I haven't really been following. I think their last season, I don't know, it just like petered out for me, but they like revamped. They have like a new approach. It's like a lot more fun. They're doing like listener submitted recipes now instead of like hunting on the internet last minute, because Dave Chang never does anything in advance. But it's just hilarious. Like I've been doing some little projects for work that are a little monotonous, and I just put that on and I'm like laughing all day. And my partner comes over and he's like, you seem like you're having really fun times and I want to hang out with you because it seems like you're doing fun things. I'm like, I'm just listening to podcasts. I'm just laughing along with my buddy Dave Chang, and it's a good time. Other things, if you're in the Cleveland area, where I currently am at my parents' house, Troubadour Coffee is a roaster I discovered. It's like a western suburbs of Cleveland, and it is amazing. I can't speak higher of the coffee beans. Maybe they ship. Maybe you can order online if you're not in Cleveland, but I don't know. It was just really good, and like the owner was like telling us all about these coffees, and I know probably a little too much about coffee roasting process and beans because I care. But even then, I was like, he's like on another level, and just the way he describes the coffee, I'm like, it's gonna change my life. Like, I'm ready for my life-changing experience. And lastly, I've been shopping my own closet. So I've been traveling a lot recently, and so I left all my summer and spring clothes at my parents' house. And now that I'm here, it felt like a gift to myself because I got to go through my trunk of clothes and be like, oh, I love this. I'm gonna take this dress. I'm gonna take this top, and like just like reacquainting myself with my clothes. I don't know why the mind trick of just putting your clothes away for a couple seasons and then bringing it back makes you feel like you are like getting a shopping spree. But I did realize all my pants are like out of style because I think I've worn the same cut of pants since 2010. And I think I need to update my pants.
The Gen Zers are peer pressuring us.
I know. I'm like, I can't wear these blue denim skinny jeans anymore. Maybe I can, but like
You can. Who cares? What's gonna happen?
I know. I've never felt peer pressured by a 19-year-old more. I was just at my cousin's wedding. She's 24 this week that we're recording.
Oh my god.
Some of her bridesmaids are even younger than her, and I was just like, I'm so old. teach me. What are you doing? What are these pants you all wear that are ripped on the front? Where do I get these things? Do you rip them yourself? I don't know. And then I felt old because that's what my dad said to me when I had ripped jeans back in, 10th grade. But
Yeah, try being in Europe. Not a skinny leg in sight.
literally what I was thinking about when I was like pulling out clothes, because I'm going to Belgium in a couple weeks to see Julia, and I'm like, I can't wear these pants.
I mean, I do. I still wear my skinny jeans. I should share my currently obsessed now so we can stop recording.
Yeah. Let's go.
Okay, so my currently obsessed, the film Drive My Car, based roughly on an Haruki Murakami story. It's very long. It's an event. You want to sit down and spend an evening with it, but it's very good. And then if we're talking about currently obsessed, the thing that I am so obsessed with, I've watched it I think 4 times now, is Our Flag Means Death on HBO.
I just watched 2 more episodes last night.
What episode are you on?
I think the last one I watched is when they go to the party.
Oh, that's my favorite episode.
That one's really good.
Oh, it's so good.
Really good.
Oh my
I do
God.
always feel like it's a jump scare when Nick Kroll shows up in something. I will say, I guess light to major Our Flag Means Death spoilers is obviously I know that they're gonna kiss and be in love at the end of the season, but some people were surprised by that.
Yeah.
And I was watching episode 4 yesterday, and I was like, obviously this guy got stabbed and the other guy's sitting by his bedside watching him breathe. It's the gayest thing I've ever seen. Are you guys okay that you were I'm shocked by this turn of events? Oh my God.
It's a very gay show, but
Right.
apparently at people who were watching it as it was airing, the way that they promoted the show was they didn't refer to it as a love story until the final episodes aired. The last 2 episodes aired together, and the audience didn't really share it with their friends because they were so afraid. They've been so burned by other creators, Supernatural, Sherlock. Think about the audience that this is. It's people. My friend and I make jokes of if you've been personally victimized by Stephen Moffat, this is the show for you.
Then you were watching this. Okay. Yeah. That makes sense.
I just want to make a PSA of I love that Victoria got that reference, but because he was so cruel to John Locke shippers and whatever when they made that show very gay, and they just refused to acknowledge it and made everyone feel stupid for reading into it. So anyway, a bunch of people were very afraid of being burned, and the creator didn't feel the need to clarify. So he was it's obviously very gay. Of course it's a love story. What are you talking about? And so he didn't realize until there was this huge reaction to the kiss where they were wait, this is text? They're actually in love? We're doing this? And all of a sudden it exploded, and there's been these huge word of mouth, suddenly tons of all the nerds are sharing it. And so then the creator was oh, I'm sorry, I didn't realize how big of a deal this would be. I didn't understand.
I thought you guys knew this was the Gay Pirate Show immediately.
I thought you knew that.
Sorry, guys.
I need to watch this.
You need to watch this show, Victoria.
It's fun. Yeah, it's really fun. Wait, can I add it to my obsessions? Because I didn't mention any books, and I forgot to mention books. Currently reading Love and Other Disasters, which is a rom-com. One of the main characters is a queer woman. The other one is a non-binary person. And they're competing on a reality cooking show that's kind of Master Chef, but with more of a Great British Bake Off aesthetic.
Oh my God.
And it's really good, and I like it a lot. And then I'm also reading an arc of Honey and Spice, which is a rom-com set at a British university, which I'm early in, and I really like it. So I'm obsessed with both of those.
Amazing.
So we talk about books.
Yeah.
So we can bring some books back to it. Yeah.
Well, thank you so much, Victoria, for joining us.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
And for our listeners, where do you want to point them? Anything you want to plug?
Yeah, you can find me on Twitter at Victoria Edel, Edel. Usually I tweet if I have like an article that I really liked. I wrote for Pop Sugar. You can also follow Pop Sugar on all social media platforms. And then also me and Haley's newsletter on Twitter is at Gold Plated Girls. I think if you just like Google button down Gold Plated Girls, you can subscribe. It should come up right up. Yeah. Thanks for having me.
Sure thing.
Yay! This was so fun.
Yay.
We'll catch you next time.
Bye, everybody.
Thank you for listening to Book Club with Julia and Victoria. We would love to hear your thoughts on this book or the topic we discussed, so you can share your review and recommendations with us on Instagram at Book Club with JV, on our website, bookclubwithjv.com, or by leaving a review on Apple Podcasts. You can also visit our website for show notes with links to all of the recommendations and the things bringing us joy. If you don't already, go ahead and follow us on whichever podcast platform you are listening on so that you can be notified when our next episode is released. This episode was co-hosted and produced by myself, Victoria Bruick, along with Julia Clausen. Rebecca Gasme provides us with project management support. Our music is composed by Greg Bruick, and our logo was designed by Gabby Fablin. Until next time, happy reading.